Hi everyone, and welcome to Exploring the Build. If you just found this place, then welcome, and if you're returning, I'm glad to have you back. I'm Alex, and this is my channel where we explore and theory craft different character builds for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Today, we're doing a quick build. We'll be exploring a briefly summarized build for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and as always with quick builds, if you ever have any builds that you'd like to see me explore in the future, be sure to let me know in the comments below. The concept for our video today is that we're going to try and create an ocean druid. This is going to be a much more thematic rather than mechanical build. However, we will still get some good mechanical synergy eventually. What we're really looking to do, though, is create a druid that feels at home in or near the ocean itself, or at least large bodies of water. There are so many different Druidic circles that take on so many different forms of nature as their aspect for their subclass, but none of them are really specifically based around the ocean itself, or at least not quite. For us, this means that we're going to have to heavily theme some other Druidic Circle that we pick and invest into the right spells in order to make us feel like this idea of an ocean druid, if not the ocean's hungry grasp itself. By the end of our build, though, not only will we feel like a druid of the ocean itself and have plenty control over the water plus some cold damage, but we'll also actually have a lot of single target damage as well as area of effect control abilities. Plus, with the possibility of using some support type abilities like healing, buffs, or debuffs, we're going to be very versatile in our mechanical abilities, but very single-minded in terms of how we are themed. It should all round out to make us a really interesting druid of the ocean. Starting into the actual build itself, at character creation, we're going to want to pick something that is a lineage that is specifically related to oceans or large bodies of water, or anything that can just make us feel at home in water. I'm going to say that we are a sea elf, because mechanically there's a feat we're going to want to pick up later on. However, anything like Triton or Water Genasi, or technically even custom lineage, might work as well. Or if you want to be really specific, picking a half elf and then picking that you are half sea elf could also be very mechanically advantageous as well. The idea here is that we want to pick up something that gives us a swimming speed plus the ability to breathe underwater, so that way we do feel at home in the ocean. And custom lineage doesn't really do that, but you could get a free feat and it would sort of be flavored well. For our background, we are going to actually have an important background choice here. We're going to want to pick Sailor. Sailor is maybe not the most ideal background for being around water, at least in terms of being a druid that is around water, but for us it should work pretty fine. I'll get to why it works so well in a little bit, but right now we're going to continue with our stats. For our stats, we're going to want 8 strength, 14 dexterity, 15 constitution, 10 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 10 charisma. Of course, we use point buy, and we basically, as a sea elf, could take the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes version of the sea elf, which allows us to have a +2 to one stat and a +1 to another one. We would have put the +2 into wisdom and the +1 into our constitution. You can change those stats around if you want. Just keep in mind that we want to have wisdom as our top priority. Looking at this build overall, it's going to be a lot more thematic rather than mechanical because there's not a lot of multi-classing, and the only choices that really matter are our subclass, our ability score improvement / feats, and our spells that we pick. I will say that we are just going 20 levels of druid, so really all of our choices are just oriented around what can make us feel the most like an ocean druid. I will say I did actually play this character in a campaign a few years back, and the end product actually did feel like a very powerful ocean druid. However, the one caveat is that that was in a setting that was on a coast and involved a lot of ocean-related exploration and activities, meaning that this character was a little bit more powerful because all their spells, their theme, everything gels with being around the ocean or at least a large body of water. If you wanted to play this type of character in any given campaign setting, they'll be noticeably less powerful in areas where there aren't water, like a desert, the far north, or anything else that is just more landlocked. You'll still be a druid overall, so you'll be able to hash it up to some extent, but we won't get that nice thematic flair that also comes with a bit of a power boost. For our actual choices, what are we doing to create this ocean druid? Well, first of all, for our subclass, we're going to pick Circle of Stars. The Circle of Stars, I think, is very thematic for an ocean druid since it works as a celestial navigator type theme. Normally, the Circle of Stars is themed to be about a druid who is drawing on their power from the night sky and the constellations therein as its own circle of nature. However, for us, we're drawing on, yes, the stars in the night sky and the constellations, but more through the innate connection between ocean travel and the night sky as well, not just the night sky on its own. I think that this, also given that our background is sailor, all works very well as a starting point for an ocean druid. The actual benefits we get from being a Circle of Stars druid, we're going to gain our star map, which is just a buff to Guiding Bolt, as well as it gives us a free guidance. It also gives us a starry form, which has some good mechanical versatility, but for us it's mainly going to equal damage. It's the one where we can use our wild shape to instead gain a constellation form upon us, and that'll give us some sort of bonus, like the archer, which is damage, as I said, or the other two, which are related more for healing, or just more skill utility. We also eventually will gain Cosmic Omen, which is a passive buff or debuff that we roll for at the beginning of a long rest and then can use our reaction to actually trigger throughout the day. We'll also gain Twilight Constellations, which is a buff to our starry form and allows us to have a little bit more versatility with it. And we'll finally gain Full of Stars, which is the feature that is a big defense buff that just gives us resistance to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage when we have our starry form up. Now that you know what subclass we're doing and that we are very focused around constellations and stars and navigation, which can sort of be themed again towards sailing and interacting with the ocean, what are we actually picking for our ability score improvement / feats? Well, right away at level 4, the reason we picked Elf is because we want to pick up Elven Accuracy. It's a half feat, so it's going to improve our wisdom by +1 to allow us to round off our wisdom at 18. And then it also has the added benefit of giving us an extra d20 roll whenever we have advantage on any attack rolls that use dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. And for us, that's primarily going to be wisdom, because we'll be using wisdom for our spell attacks as a druid quite consistently. At level 8, we will eventually take Resilient and improve Constitution. That way we can gain proficiency in Constitution saving throws, as well as some more health, since it's another half feat. And then our final 3 ability score improvements are just going to be spent capping our wisdom at 20 and improving our dexterity, so we'll actually have a relatively good AC. So if the Circle of Stars druid is what gives us the foundation of both our theme and our mechanical abilities, and Elven Accuracy is what rounds off our mechanical abilities by giving us a sort of super advantage on our wisdom-based spell attacks, now it's time to pick our spells in order to actually get the rest of the theme of being an ocean-focused druid. Really, we're going to do that by picking any spell that is either water-based in nature or deals cold damage. So things like Ice Knife, Control Water, Tidal Wave, etc. all would make great spell choices for us to have. And a lot of them, like Control Water, are better when we are just around a body of water to be able to pull some strength from. Our main go-to spell will eventually be the Guardian of Nature spell, which is 4th level, so we don't get it to level 7, but since it gets followed by Resilience Constitution, it's a nice little combo bonus, and here's why. Guardian of Nature is pretty much what we are building around. As a bonus action, we can take on a transformation that lasts for 1 minute. Normally, that transformation is either the Primal Beast or the Great Tree, but for us, I'd theme it as the Great Reef. We would instead take on more of a coral and rocky aspect, and then have types of aquatic foliage sprouting from our hair, just to make it a little bit more thematic in nature. But mechanically, this spell gives us, when we pick the Great Tree as our transformation, 10 temporary hit points, advantage on Constitution-based saving throws, advantage on any attack roll that is either dexterity-based or wisdom-based, and as long as we are on the ground, everything within 15 feet of us counts as difficult terrain, which again could be water-themed in nature, since water is usually counted as difficult terrain, I would think, in most D&D encounters. So what does this all do when we have it all put together? As you noticed, with Elven Accuracy and Guardian of Nature, as soon as we have Guardian of Nature up, every wisdom-based spell attack just has advantage, which is actually super advantage. That also technically includes our Starry Form Archer attack, which we can use as a bonus action. Also includes the Guiding Bolt spell, which for us, Guiding Bolt actually is going to feel more like a cantrip eventually, given that our Starry map gives us extra castings of that spell equal to our proficiency bonus. We don't even need to spend a spell slot, and we do have that spell prepared on our spell list, if we wanted to use spell slots to cast it as well. This means that in combat, we are going to be able to take one turn to essentially set up our Guardian of Nature and Starry form, assuming this is a big combat that we want to use both of these features in, and then just blast away with Guiding Bolts as our action and our Archer form as our bonus action, gaining advantage on both. Or if we just don't want to do damage at all, we can switch and use our action to do some other type of control type effect, such as Control Water or Tidal Wave, and then have our bonus action reserved still for the Archer form constellation, or we could switch it to more of a healing constellation like the Chalice or the utility constellation of the Dragon. Even though we are just a Druid for our full 20 levels, we're still going to become very powerful in terms of how versatile we are. Also, we're going to be very thematically synergist with just all the different abilities and how they can make us feel like an Ocean Druid. So now that we know pretty much what the build actually looks like, let's summarize what we really have. We are certainly the ocean's hungry grasp. We have plenty of super advantage if we want it. We can take one turn, like I said, to pop out our Starry form and our Guardian of Nature, and then just have that super advantage on every spell attack that we make. Which, again, with the sheer amount of Guiding Bolts we have, can be quite a lot. It would add up to essentially 4d6 plus 2d8 plus our Wisdom modifier as damage every single turn. And that's assuming we hit with our super advantage, probably should. And another added bonus is that it has a very high chance of critically hitting too, which spell attacks can critically hit, potentially doubling all that damage we would do to 8d6 plus 4d8 plus our Wisdom modifier. Our lineage as a sea elf allows us to actually feel at home in the water too, which is great since none of our subclass options that we could have picked from do a better job at that. The Circle of Stars Druid is really the closest I think we would get to an ocean-based Druid, besides maybe the Circle of Land coastal circle, because the idea of constellations and stars are so closely tied to celestial navigation and the ocean themselves. I think that the Circle of Stars Druid is really the best option for making a Druid of the ocean. Other than that though, let me know what you thought of the build or what you would change to make it better, or even what other aspects of nature you think aren't really represented in the Druid class. Sure, there is the Circle of Land, which covers a lot, and there's things like wildfire, or spores, or even the Circle of Stars. But what other aspect of nature do you think would make a really great Druidic Circle? Thank you so much for joining me on the journey, and I hope to see you in the next one.